This is to help you build the best island project for your school project. First, you start out with a 17 approximately by 12-inch cookie sheet. You cover it with aluminum foil. First, you tear off a piece of aluminum foil that is larger than 17 by 12 and crumple it up into a ball. Do not do it tightly because when you uncrumple it, you do not want to tear any holes in the aluminum foil. If you do tear holes in the aluminum foil, you will want to redo that. You do not want any holes in the aluminum foil. This way you're able to wrap the aluminum foil up and over the edges of the cookie sheet. Okay? The next steps that my daughter did was the plaster of Paris, of which she drew out kind of the rough draft of where she wanted the island, poured the plaster of Paris where she wanted it to be. Where the lake was going to be and where the rivers were carved out with a knife. Just a regular butter knife or any type of pottery tool is fine, but make sure that there is no plaster of Paris on that surface. If there is, it will be okay to some extent because you'll be pouring the liquid over the aluminum foil for the appearance of the water. After the plaster of Paris has time to dry, you then paint it. As the plaster of Paris is drying, you are able to use it. It becomes more solid, and you're able to do three-dimensional mountains and volcanoes, of which is easier to work with. When the plaster of Paris is too liquid, too fluid, it's easier to smooth the surface out so you have flat planes, but when it becomes thicker as you work with it, you can work with making more texture. After it is done drying, you then paint it. She painted this, and if you wish to have a coral reef, she took the plaster of Paris and placed a very, very thin layer on the aluminum foil so that when we poured the liquid over it, it would appear to be underwater. After it is painted, we took small pieces of styrofoam, or she did, cut into small squares and painted her buildings, which made the cities that we needed to come up with. You then paint them, let them dry, and you can glue them down with Elmer's glue, which dries clear. For the forest, we took pieces off of the top of a Scotch-Brite sponge and just pulled them off, and she glued them down. You can also go to the train supply store, and they also sell tops of trees or whatever, which you can purchase, but this is an inexpensive way to do this, and it looks just fine. Woodland Scenics is how you get the effect of the water. You can buy it blue, but I would highly recommend not spending the extra money. What you can do is you can buy, there's an 18-ounce bottle, I believe. Go to a hobby store, train store, go online. What you do is when you have the material, or when you have Woodland Scenics, it's an acrylic, I believe, or not acrylic, excuse me. It's latex-based chemical, so it does smell rather strong. You can put just a couple drops of an acrylic base paint into it and stir it around very carefully. You do not want to do it quickly because it causes bubbles, and unless you are looking to have bubbles in your water, you do not want to do that. So once the island is painted and it's dry, you are able to then pour very easily the Woodland Scenics water around the island. Now, when you're going into the rivers and into the lake, you can use what they call a guiding tool. Well, a guiding tool can be anything you want it to be. It can be your finger, it can be a pencil. Ours was a pottery tool, and you just put it up against the area where you want it to go, and it will follow that. And it just kind of brings it to it. It's easy to work with. That's how we got this in here, into the lakes, and then into the lake. You need to make sure that you allow it to dry for 24 hours and give yourself plenty of time. And once it's dry, it's solid. For the beach, we tried to make it look as though we have some ripples and it goes in. For making of the beach, what makes the beach, we've got sand here. What you can do is you can either take a very fluid plaster of Paris, place down a very, very thin layer, and pour over sand. Pour sand over it and just let it dry, and then allow this, and then just use a vacuum or dust buster and suck off the remnants. Or what you can do is you can put Elmer's glue down and then also sprinkle sand over it, and then let that dry and remove the remnants. That way you have texture and it looks like a real sand. But of course you do that before you put the water down. The water covers it up and it looks as though it is real water. We had to place a realistic key that is to the dimensions of the island. And she wrote all of this obviously up by hand. It was not printed. Then once it was finished, I took scissors and I cut out around the aluminum foil so that it was trimmed and looked neat. And all the names, the island, everything is easily done by my 6th grader. The only thing that I took care of was the pouring of the chemical because of the smell of it. It is very strong. So this is how you can make one really good looking island. This is an A+ right here with 4 cities, a volcano, you have your valley, and you have your mountain range and your beach. I don't know if that was required or not. We have a beautiful finished island named Camellia, that's correct. And it's a very nice island. Thank you for watching. I hope this helps you and your student get through this project quite easily. It's easier than what you think when it first comes home.